this is probably the weirdest way to celebrate Independence Day, which is the 4th of July of today, but considering I really got nothing else to do and I don't celebrate all the holidays, and I'm doing Summer Palooza 2 this month instead of next month, unlike last year, I honestly think that uploading this video earlier this month is probably the best idea, because in all honesty, I was planning to do a review on this special since that it's the second to last iCarly 44-minute special before iCarly came to an end. And all I can say is that this special isn't terrible, but just like every other episode, it's just plain and generic. But at least it's not a derailed episode. The special begins with Spencer and another girl, yeah, he has so many dates in the show, it's no surprise, is watching the Jimmy Fallon show. Well, Jimmy Fallon is writing one of the things that he laughed the most, and considering that he's one of the most difficult people to get a laugh out of, Spencer, of course, obviously woke up Freddie and Carly when he completely saw Jimmy completely writing down iCarly on his show. And considering the attention that iCarly gets all the time, you can tell that they're gonna do something special for the webcast. In the next scene, Carly and Sam are doing a parody of Jimmy Fallon's TV show at New York. And considering the fact that Jimmy Fallon was actually watching, you can tell that he desperately wants the iCarly gang to be part of his TV show. Yeah. I know this is pretty much a difficult thing to actually think about, but despite how mostly generic this episode is, this is actually the first time where iCarly actually is being part of a TV show. I mean, sure, they were part of Cook-Off, but considering that was mainly about cooking, considering that they're gonna be on TV for the comedy instead of cooking, it's probably a great idea for this special, to be quite honest. When they arrive at New York City, they completely learn that Gibby didn't buy Alana's case because his employees loses Gibby's luggage, is what I mean. And considering that this is called iShock America, you can tell that this is going to be a major plot point somewhere in the middle of this special. It's revealed that Gibby had underwear inside his briefcase. And considering the fact that he has no underwear on whatsoever, he decides to buy street pants. Yeah. Street pants. I still cannot take Gibby seriously in this episode and this season, and I'm still referring to this towards I Goodbye, the 7th season episodes, no matter what people say otherwise. As they appear on Jimmy Fallon's TV show, they completely have an interview on what they do on iCarly, and this also leads to Jimmy Fallon completely revealing his favorite bits and pieces of iCarly humor. Considering that he is basically one of those people who can actually see the comedy from iCarly than anyone else, really goes to show that he is probably a really likable character in the show. But in real life, I'm gonna get to that later. The comedy gag that Jimmy Fallon wants the iCarly gang to do is random dancing with their hats and gloves off. It's basically that they have to take off their gloves and hats without even taking them off with their fingers. They have to move around crazily, kind of like random dancing. So I honestly think that this bit was kind of hilarious, but midway through this session, Gibby's street pants have been fallen down, and since that he wasn't wearing underwear, it's been on TV. Yeah. And that's why I'm going to stop talking about the story, because through the other half of this episode, it just reveals the situations on it wasn't Jimmy Fallon's fault that Gibby's pants have been fallen down, and it leads to a situation that iCarly needs to pay the fine, which was $500,000. I'm just going to get to the point onto why this episode is generic. Since that this is one of the final episodes of the show, and the fact that the iCarly gang is getting older and older, the goofiness is still existent in this episode, nonetheless. And it just makes it really difficult for me to actually see the special or really entertaining specials than the other specials that I've seen involving iShock Marks, iPsycho, and I Quit iCarly. I would take this special a lot more seriously if they were trying to treat this a whole lot more better, since that this is getting towards the end of iCarly. This premiered in October of 2012, while I Goodbye premiered in the following month of November 2012. But I will give this episode some credit that they actually put the webcast of iCarly into the mix in the main plot point, instead of just completely using it as a background thing that they kept doing since the newer episodes. For this episode, mainly focusing on the webcast and Jimmy Fallon's TV show, is probably the best way to actually have the iCarly show, the iCarly.com, to have some kind of a major plot point in this. But considering the fact that this, following I Goodbye, there's really nothing else that this show can actually do with a web show for the next 5 episodes until I Goodbye, which is actually kind of depressing if you ask me. When I completely say that Jimmy Fallon was a good character in this show but not in real life, it's because I'm not a fan of him in real life. Here's the thing. He's not terrible. I do not hate him. I'm just saying that other than his appearance in this, I'm really not interested into what he does in the real world. I did see bits and pieces of him of cameos and being guests into other companies and stuff like that, but that's basically it. I will say that he's basically the major thing that can actually makes this special a lot more entertaining, since that he is something that Nickelodeon can easily use for iCarly's popularity, and it actually did succeed. But other than that, it still didn't get my attention into watching what he does outside of the show. Despite actually having the show put their development on him and actually try to make him laugh at something at iCarly, really is a good idea, but in all honesty, that's literally what they can do for this. And let's get into the second part of what his motivation is, and that's the situation between Gibby and his street pants falling down. Like I mentioned, the iCarly needs to pay the fine of $500,000, which is a violation of showing that kind of you-know-what on TV. But in all honesty, the only punishment that they're going to get is getting iCarly shut down. That's really it. They don't go to prison because it was never mentioned it, and they'll just completely not flinch at the idea that the web show is gonna be shut down. They've been through this situation so many times to the point that they probably would care less of what happens next if this show actually continued in 2013. Which actually makes me want to watch the other specials in this. Sure, it isn't a waste of time and it's not really a guilty pleasure, but when you ever look at these characters just completely trying hard while trying to get older and being mature, but at the same time not completely shocked or aware that the web show is completely going to be shut down, I'm really not buying it. The line where Flay says, iCarly is my life. My life. Seriously? I'm sorry, but I know Freddy would never say that whatsoever. Even if this is one of the later episodes, it's just really difficult to actually take him seriously with that line alone. As for the comedy in this, no offense, but other than the webcast and the bits and pieces of Jimmy Fallon and iCarly, which is the interview and random dancing sequence, everything else is just lazy, to be quite honest. There's a gag where after Carly completely saw that Gibby was naked in front of a live audience for the second time, he pukes inside the hat, which is actually a band's members' hats that completely perform the music for Jimmy Fallon's intro and outro in his show. This goes on like about twice in this, and it's really not the best comedy whatsoever because it's just really forced, to be quite honest. I mean, if this actually happened for the first time, Gibby completely is naked in front of TV, I would have understand that. While the other characters, either Sam or Freddy, completely block Gibby in front of the camera. That joke would have been much more better, but considering the fact that they did it later, makes the joke too late to laugh at. But I will give this special the benefit of the doubt to actually make this special at least 44 minutes long. I know I don't usually talk about this when it comes to iCarly specials or other specials, but I honestly think that they probably did a good job on extending the length to 44 minutes, because I know full well that they can't be able to do all of this in 22 minutes, because the first part is recognizing that iCarly is on Jimmy Fallon, which is a mention, do a parody of it, go to New York. The second part, they arrive at New York, Gibby completely buys street pants, they perform at show, Gibby shocks America. The third part, the situation, need to pay the fine. And the final part is mostly rushed, to be quite honest. Now look, I know people are gonna comment down below on the fact that this is what some TV shows do, and what Jimmy Fallon does in the show might happen in real life, but considering that they probably didn't have enough time, and if this actually continued on much longer, this would have been actually a movie instead of a special. But the ending just shows Jimmy Fallon completely heard that people have been saving money to save iCarly, and behind the curtain, it was just enough for iCarly to stay in business for the next month and a half when it comes to episode premiering. This was a good ending, but at the same time, I honestly think that it's a mostly watched ending for what we've seen between iCarly and stuff. Because the fact that this is actually nearly more than $500,000 is honestly impressive, but at the same time, it's not really something I would see for an episode to end, to be quite honest. Granted, it is a great way to actually have audience help out the people that they actually didn't deserve because of what really happened. But whenever I look at this, it just makes most of the special mainly forced for a 44-minute special. I did like most of the parts, but the ending part, which was this, honestly makes me think that the rest of this is just basically having iCarly be more popularity until it came to an end for the following month. Yes, you can comment down all you want on how I don't understand how the world works when it comes to celebrity shows where they actually can use this kind of stuff in real life, but it just really makes everything else mainly filler, to be quite honest, which is actually the sad part. The ending didn't ruin the episode, it just makes the entire special mostly filler. Because, well, Nickelodeon needs a guest host, and in order to have this special end, they have to do something that what celebrity shows do in real life, which I'm not mostly a fan of. Show is actually helpful and nice, but at the same time, it's also mostly predictable whenever you see this stuff over and over again. This is honestly one of the most mediocre iCarly specials I've ever seen. It's not bad, but at the same time, I don't think I will want to waste my time watching it again. This special is better than I Still Psycho and I Date a Bad Boy, but at the same time, this special is in the middle of ranking of the best and worst iCarly specials. Those 7 iCarly specials, I think, which has to be 44 minutes long, that are probably a lot more entertaining than this. Nickelodeon is just trying to have iCarly get every single celebrity in the final season just so that it can end off with a great episode, despite the fact that other than this and iGoodbye, everything else that I've talked about in my top 10 Do You Well iCarly episodes I've made 2.5 years ago, well not really 2.5 years ago, but almost 3 years ago, really explains everything onto why I actually don't enjoy these new episodes nowadays. Yes, I am aware that this special is almost 8 years old, and the fact that iCarly came to an end 8 years ago, but I'm just trying to be more sophistic because when I talk about new episodes, I'm talking about the ones that are not good, and when I talk about the old episodes, I'm talking about that they were actually good despite with bad ones in those piles. I'm just trying to be sophistic. I may say that this is mainly the older iCarly because this show is probably the longest live-action sitcoms in Nickelodeon when it comes to Dan Snyder's Bakery, but at the same time, I really don't know what else to believe when it comes to what happens between the beginning and the end of each show, because I haven't even looked at Henry Danger, and I can say is that show, after I completely talked about Henry Danger the musical, Nickelodeon really doesn't know how to move on since they have Danger Forces, which is the spin-off of Henry Danger. People may enjoy that, but at the same time, I don't want to waste my time watching that, since that it's now a Nickelodeon production instead of a Snyder's Bakery production. So I give this episode a 5.75 out of 10. Been a while since I talked about iCarly, which was in last April, but if I'm ever going to review another iCarly special, it will probably be better or worse than this. Happy 4th of July and happy Independence Day.